Let's get you way better at Rainbow Six Extraction really quickly, okay? One of the first things I'd recommend to anybody who's new is to go into your menu here and look at your operators, because every single operator has 2 weapons, but all of these weapons are suppressed by default. What I would recommend you do is you go into your main primary weapon here and remove the suppressor. Reason being is take a look at the damage numbers here. So currently this weapon does 69 damage when it's full blast. If you put on a suppressor, that's 41 damage now. And to really quantify how big of a debuff that is to your weapon, you are losing 40% of your damage when you have the suppressor on. But don't get me wrong, stealth is a really big deal in this game, so I would still recommend having a suppressor on your secondary weapon. Use this to take things out when you're trying not to be heard. And one more thing about the operators before we look into some gameplay here is take a look at all of their advancements. Some of these advancements are really, really good. Such as Rook here, just on level 2. He gets armor plates for the VIPs, meaning that they can take a lot more hits, which means you're going to have a lot more success with those VIP missions because they're a little squishy. And heck, Armored Revival here makes it so he always has armor even if he goes down and comes back up. All of these operators have insane things. Rook is just one example. I recommend you take a look and see what you like and go from there. And I know people are going to ask, what's a good operator for solo queue? The operators I think that are the best for solo queue, just due to the nature of how solo queue works, I would say are Vigil, because they can cloak, Pulse because they can get a lot of intel very quickly, or Rook if you just want to try to stay alive. I would lean Pulse because knowing what you're getting yourself into is the best thing you can do. So right as you load into the game, what I would recommend doing is getting some intel here via a drone. A little bit later in the game, you get this thing called the XR drone. If you don't have it yet, I would work towards it because it's easily the best item in the whole game. So you go ahead and you toss out your drone, and what this thing's going to do is everything within an 8-meter radius of the drone is going to get scanned. So that could be creatures, and that could be nests, and that could be objectives. This lets you know exactly where you got to go and exactly what's going to be in your way, and it is endlessly helpful. Oh, right over here. So actually, here's our target. So we can see nest getting highlighted here. We can see our actual objective. Also, you can recall the drone at any time. So if you go ahead and you take a look here, this thing has a battery, and the battery runs out, because that's what batteries do. And if it were to run out, you would lose your drone for 30 seconds. However, if you just go ahead and recall it, it resets the drone, which is a really easy way to get basically infinite drone time. You just have to reset your location on it. And something to know about the nest. This whole game is about nest control. If you keep the nest from screaming, you're going to have an easy time. Nests produce enemies, but they do not produce enemies unless they are alerted. The only way they're alerted is if one of these little guys screams at you. They will not scream at you unless they have line of sight. So he has line of sight. He's going to scream. Now the nest is angry. You can see it's angry because it's pulsating. Get out of my way. And if you wait here long enough, what you'll see is it's going to produce another enemy. Oh, there's another alerted nest right there. Sure enough. So what you can do is just take them out. Real simple. Now there's a bunch of different ways to take nests out. You can take them out by killing bloaters next to it. You can shoot them, you can stab them, you can do all sorts of things. I'm just going to shoot this one because there's stink right there. And now let's worry about our target that got away here. Sup, buddy? Something you can do is you can punch things if they get too close to you, and then they really can't touch you, and then you can take them out real easy. This will also help prevent screams, so keep that in mind. Is if he's going to scream, I can pop him. That also killed him. So let's talk about how we can try to prevent line of sight here. Now what you see is we got this big hole here, so we don't want to go right there because that little guy might scream at us. So something we can do is, first off, let's check to see if we can even hit stuff. This little flashlight you have equipped gives you a lot of intel as to whether or not you can hit something through a surface. If it's highlighted, you can hit it. If it's not highlighted, you can't hit it. So you can actually see this enemy back here must be hiding behind something, but the nest is free game. So we don't want to make a hole like this, right? Because if we're next to a wall and we just start pelting the crap out of it, well, we just made another hole. So something you can do to prevent that from happening is to space out your shots. So if I go ahead and I do one of these, and then one of these, and then one of these, one of these, what you'll see is I'm hitting my target, but I am not making it so that I can be seen. And again, if they can't see you, they can't scream at you. And since you can only be screamed at if you can be seen, it might be in your favor to think about closing a door. If you're sitting there, you're trying to figure things out. Or maybe fortifying something if you're going to sit in a room for a little bit, or if you're trying to transition into another area. There's still fortifications in this game. There's still ways to board up windows. I would recommend using those to try to keep yourself a little bit under the radar. Your React Tech fills a bunch of different things up. It's not just grenades. In case you didn't know that. So if you go ahead and take a look here, I only have 2 reinforcements left because I used one over there. Well, if I pick this up, I should be filled back up to 3. Yep, sure enough. There's a bunch of items that get refilled. I think your revive kit gets refilled. I don't know if your armor does. Either way, check it out. The descriptions of the items will tell you these things. So you see these little containers here. If you ever wondered how many of them are on the map, all you gotta do is press tab. And you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner how many of them are still there. Now, keep in mind, this could include items that are in the next transition area. So you'd have to go over to the transition part of the map and then open that up and see what's inside. But generally, this will tell you how much is left. Now, there's something really important to know about gadgets and equipment in this game. So I have these field walls here, and I'll go ahead and I throw one. Typically, what a field wall does is it makes a wall for a while, eats projectiles, and eventually, after a certain amount of time, it's going to run out. By the way, field walls are one of the best items in the game. Don't sleep on these things. These will save your life and make it so you can do high-level incursions. Anyway, field wall eventually runs out of juice. Give it, I don't know, 10 to 15 seconds. And what you see here is it's blinking and it's about to run out. And then it's gone. However, something you can do with a lot of different gadgets in this game, a Jaeger's a really, really big one for this, is if you throw the gadget on the ground and pick it back up, it refreshes. You see I had 5? Well, if I throw it down, I have 4. I pick it back up, I have 5. Now, if I go ahead and I throw a gadget here and it's about to run out, and I pick it up right before it runs out, I have it back. And then I can throw it again and it's at full juice again. So, something I really, really, really like to do with field walls here is I'll make a little perimeter on something like a serial scan, right? So I'll go wha-bam, and then wha-bam, and then wha-bam. And we have ourselves a nice little anti-tormentor zone. However, if I need to try to maintain this area, something you can do is throw ahead and then pick up the one behind it. Throw ahead and then pick up the one behind it. And then this allows you to basically have infinite field walls and be protected from everything. So I recommend getting a little familiar with your equipment, especially on folks like Jaeger or if you're using things like field walls. Now, I think when people think of noise in this game, they think of it as a bad thing. Noise doesn't have to be a bad thing because, again, they only scream if they can see you. So if I'm in a really good spot and I want these things to come to my really good spot, instead of having to push towards them and put myself in a worse position, I can just make some noise, right? So I took out those 2 enemies real easy, a couple of headshots. And if I keep making noise, these guys will start to look for the noise. And then what you see is they're starting to walk right over here. And they come right out the window. Suddenly I have easy shots on them again. Bam. And then, almost busted that open. Then bam. I cleared out all those enemies and I had my really easy penetrable wall this entire time. Super simple. And something I typically would do if I was playing a little bit more seriously is I might barricade this while we're walking around, messing around out here, making noise, because you don't want something to see you through the window and you get slammed. And something to keep in mind, actually, is if you blast through a wall like this, and then you hit something after the wall has a hole in it, you're not going to get those bonus penetration points. And this is a really big deal on something like Maelstrom where you're trying to maximize your points. So something I would recommend doing is, again, that hole thing. One trick I like to do with my friends is I like to have a door that's closed here, and you'll see they'll start to beat on the door, right? I'll go, okay, guys, I'm going to open the door, and then I'll open the door, and my friends right here will shoot right through and just blast these guys because they have a little bit of an animation lock when they're stuck behind a door. So you can just sit here and just keep playing door tricks with them. It's really fun. Can't touch me. Then super simple, just like that. You can do this all day long. Now, eventually these doors will break if they beat on them enough. But if you keep doing crap like this, you can get a lot more life out of your doors if you're in a good spot for it. Here, an easy trick with the sowers. Stay away. So if you bop them, sometimes what they'll do, yeah, they go up like that. And if you prone, you can just get a really easy shot on them. Oh, this will actually be a fun little trick to show you. So blinding spores here, these little things that stick to you. If you let them stick on you too long, they'll hurt you and they'll blind you, right? But there's a few different ways to take them out. One really easy way to take them out is to throw a stun grenade at your feet or a paralysis grenade or pretty much anything that's going to explode by your feet. But another really easy way to take them out is if you have any of these mines that the sowers leave behind. If you let yourself get blinded by this, it'll actually get rid of all of the blinding spores. See how there's no more blinding spores? I didn't take any damage, and the blind from the flash mines is way less severe than what you get from the blinding spores. So what you see right now is a parasite mutation, and what these are things that modify the entire map, basically. Now, something to know about them is there's a lot of different ones, and there's a lot of different ways to counter all of them. So this one says Sprawl Overflow. Archaeans produce Sprawl while moving around. So pretty much what that means is you're going to have to shoot out a lot more Sprawl to make it so you can move around a little bit easier. A really easy way to deal with that is a high fire rate weapon, or if you have the react laser, but you're probably not watching this video if you have a react laser. So a high fire rate weapon is going to be able to clear Sprawl really quickly because it's per bullet for the amount of Sprawl you clean. It's not really how powerful the gun is. Now, if we go ahead and you take a look here, we have all these Chimera mutations, and I'll put this link in the description, but Ubisoft themselves wrote one of these up, and they talk about all the different mutations and some easy ways to counter them. But I'll quickly go through some of the solutions that I've come up with. So armor nests here, these are ones that are really, really hard to take down. You can't really shoot them out. So a really easy way to take out an armored nest is just walk up to it and stab it. You could use an explosive like an impact grenade, or you could use a venom mine from Capitao. You could use Sledge's hammer. Okay? Just walk up to it, smash it, or blow it up. Blinding spore carriers. So I just showed you blinding spores. Well, what this does is it puts blinding spores on enemies. So a really easy way to deal with that is to take your enemies out by range, by scanning them out first. Also, if you have any of those spores on you, we already talked about some of the different ways that you can get rid of them. Another thing is if you have IQ on your team, she's really, really good at seeing blinding spores with her little scanner that she has. She basically has wall hacks. So if you see blinding spore carriers, you might want to pick IQ. Cloaked Archaeans. These ones are a little tough. They are hard to see and they're hard to scan. One of the things I would recommend is to bring a vapor grenade or a scan mine, but really something else you can do if you don't have those on your team is if you damage them, they will uncloak themselves. And since they don't scream unless they have line of sight, find yourself a penetrable wall and then hit them through that, and then suddenly you can see them. Caustic Sprawl is when that sprawl that's all over the map turns green and it'll poison you and hurt you as you walk on it. So really easy ways to deal with this is just shoot it out as you see it. Make sure you have some temp health on you if you have the chance. Also, take out nests because those will clear out a bunch of sprawl, and if you hit enemies in their weak spot, they won't produce sprawl when they go down. Sprawl overflow makes it so that enemies produce sprawl as they walk around. Really the best thing you can do is just keep up with the sprawl. Kill the enemies, make sure you scan them out beforehand, and then just clear out the sprawl right away so you don't get stuck on it. Spontaneous Sludge. Okay, this is one of the scariest ones in the game, in my opinion, because Sludge will absolutely destroy you if things are getting hectic. So what happens is if you kill an enemy, they will make a sludge, and that sludge is basically another enemy. So what you got to do is you got to take out the sludge. And a really easy way to prevent this from happening, though, is if you hit an enemy in the weak point, they won't produce sprawl, which means they can't produce a sludge. So try to take enemies out in the head, but also just be looking constantly at the ground to make sure the sludge isn't there. Because if the sludge hits you, you are going to take way more damage than you need to, and they can hit fast and they can hit hard. So be careful of the sludges. And then finally, we have the fog. And basically all this does is make things a little bit harder to see. Just nice and foggy. Really, the best thing you can do with the fog is just scan things out beforehand. That way you can see outlines of things rather than trying to actually look at what's in front of you, because that can get a little hard because it's foggy. Something else to know about armored nests is if you can't get up to them to melee them and you can't explode them, you still can shoot them. It takes a lot to shoot their armor off, but sometimes they expose themselves. Here, let me get this guy out of the way. Sometimes they'll expose themselves for you when they are producing an enemy. That's the best chance. See right there. Ta-da! So make sure you're on the lookout in case these nests are alerted. You can still take them out. These little dudes here that have the explodey stuff on their backs, if you don't hit their back, they're not going to explode. See how I just nailed him? Well, if I wanted to, I could use his exploder on really anybody else later. So something to know about Alibi here. I'm sure you're familiar with if you throw one of these, it makes it so that you make a little hologram and the enemies attack the hologram. That's cool. But something to keep in mind with Alibi here is enemies react to the hologram. And they will get aggroed by the hologram, and they will scream at the hologram. So you need to be really, really on top of these things. So once you level Alibi up, you can actually put your hologram on your drone. So if I go ahead and I do this, which you'll see, so you can drive around with it, it's going to piss him off. Here, take a look. I'm right here. You see how he's going to scream now? So be really careful with these things. I wonder if they'll attack it. I've never actually done this a whole lot. Yeah, they just destroy the drone anyway. So you got to be a little bit careful. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about stunning enemies. And you can do this with a few different items. So you get the smokes, the stuns, the impacts can do it too with the paralysis grenades. In my opinion, one of the best items to do it with is the paralysis grenade. Because when you throw it, it instantly paralyzes them. And you can continuously paralyze them, which is really nice on something like an Apex. So let's go paralysis grenades here. So there's a few different ways to do takedowns on enemies. One of the ways you can do that is with a stun. So if I walk up to this guy, throw a paralysis grenade at him, he can't do anything, I just walk up and take him out. And this works on almost every enemy, including smashers. The only enemy it's not going to work on is an Apex. Also, an elite smasher, you can still stab them, but it takes like 3 stabs to take them out. Also keep in mind with the smashers, you have to stab them in their back. If you try to go run up and stab them in their face, you're going to get punched. Now let me show you how you can get rid of these blinding spores here again when you throw some at your face. So got the blinding spores. That's what I was telling you before. If I throw something at the ground, bam, all the spores should disappear. And you'll even get points for it, which is kind of cool too. All right, tormentors. I want to show you guys a little bit of how to deal with tormentors because I think they're probably one of the scariest enemies in the game for a lot of people because they can really overwhelm you. So let's just talk about how to deal with them because they're really not that big a deal once you figure them out. So tormentor's going to try to shoot at me here. Something you can do is lay down. You can dodge their shots by laying down. Make sure you dodge a little bit later though, because if you dodge right away, he'll aim down towards you. Another thing to keep in mind. Oh, there we go. One of these. Another thing to keep in mind is he'll try to pop up underneath you. And if he pops up underneath you, he's going to pop you up into the air and stun you. So be a little careful with that. Another really easy way to deal with these guys is field walls. They can't shoot through a field wall. So if you're really getting beat up by them, just make a little perimeter with field walls and you're good to go. See, he came up behind me. I'm still safe. Only thing that hit me is this little caustic sprawl here. Something else to know is if you shoot them, they won't shoot back. That's one of the best things you can do. Is just hit them. They're opportunists. If you hit them, they won't really shoot at you. You just got to be fast on it. And then you can just melt them. Okay? I really feel like tormentors are probably the scariest thing for a lot of people, but once you understand them, they're not that big a deal. Field walls are so good. I'm telling you, you really got to get field walls in your arsenal if you don't have them. It's spikers and tormentors that really mess up most teams, and if you can just stop all that damage, you're pretty much good to go. And one more thing about takedowns is we have Vigil here, and honestly, I should probably make a whole Vigil character guide if you guys are interested in that. But Vigil here is uniquely talented at taking out enemies via takedowns. So I can have enemies over here, even if they're already mad and angry and aggroed, I can take them out right in front of their face. So here, where's something here? As long as I press this button here and I'm cloaked, they don't know I'm here anymore, and then I can just walk up and take them out. So it's an extremely powerful tool set to take out something like a Smasher or a Tormentor or that Rooter or really what have you, anything other than an Apex. Again, Vigil's got so many tricks up his sleeve, I could make a whole video about him. So let me know in the comments down below if you want to see character guides. Now there's a bunch of stuff going on in this game that I could teach you that's more the advanced type of tactics, and I mixed a little bit of that into here. But if you want to see a whole dedicated video about that, let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you want to ask anything about the game, I stream just about every single night on twitch.tv/SwingPoynt. You can go ahead and check that out. That'll also be in the description. And if you found this video helpful at all and you want to see more, please consider subscribing. And with that, thank you guys. You're the best, and I'll see you in the next video that we do around here.